Welcome to HSR Motorsport. Hello and welcome indeed to the HSR Motorsport GT3 Season 6 Championship, and today you join us for round 6. The third quartile of the season takes us 1,000 kilometers south of Zolder and only 60 kilometers east from Marseille. It takes us to circuit Paul Ricard. This 5.7 kilometer long circuit was created back in 1970 by a drinks magnate called Paul Ricard, and since then it has garnered a reputation as one of the most popular test tracks in the world and is also at the leading edge of safety everywhere around the world, with that pioneered runoff section you can see on your screen right now with those blue and black lines, essentially replacing gravel traps and instead putting a high grip surface in place, and that will hopefully keep the cars away from the barriers a little more than the gravel will. And as you can see, there is virtually no gravel on circuit. Now, before we dive in, we do of course have the housekeeping duties to go over. Today we have a 16-minute race here at Circuit Paul Ricard with 30 minutes of qualifying, which is 10 minutes in, by the way, so I shall cut to the action very shortly. But first off, well, no, sorry, not but, let's just head straight to the track. Enough talking. Let's just go. Let's just watch these guys, because I want to watch them. You guys want to see them in action. So, we've got our AMs out first in our split qualifying format. We've got 3 classes. If this is your first time joining us, we've got AM, Pro-Am, and Pro. And the easy way to distinguish them is simply the colour of the square behind their car number. So as you can see right at the top, we've got a couple red squares, those are AMs. Then we've got the grey squares, those are Pro-Ams, and then white squares are Pros. An easy way to distinguish between them. So the AMs get the first 10 minutes of qualifying, Pro-Ams get the second 10 minutes of qualifying, and Pros get the last 10 minutes of qualifying. So right now, we're coming to the end of the AM session, and at the moment, Huben is currently on pole with a 159.1 at a slightly soaked circuit, greasy, as you can see, track temps and everything on the top right-hand side of your screen. And at the moment, as we said, Huben currently in pole, only 300ths ahead of Mumta. So we see right now going for a spin down by turn 3. Quick little rundown of the championship standings as Mumtas pulls into the pits for his final lap attempt. We have got Johan Huben in the championship lead with 118 points, scoring a podium every single race this season thus far, with Nicholas Mumtas not far behind though, 115 points. Aaron Manchip pulls up the final podium position with 112 points, while Nick Brum is in P4 with 73, and Nico Ziludis rolls out your top 5 with 57 points. So it's quite the top end of the AMs out here tonight doing their qualifying laps. Of course, our wet circuit isn't exactly what drivers always enjoy racing on, and that might be the reason why we maybe don't see as many drivers out tonight, but I'm sure that won't stop us from having an absolutely awesome race. They never fail to entertain. Jan Huben, he has got one more shot at setting his fastest lap, but he has unfortunately invalidated it, so he is coming into the pits now. Nico Zilidis did that a while back, and now the Pro-Ams can start pulling out the pits, and we will see the first of them moving out now. Not him, Emre Özduru, not out yet. We can see Neville moving. So Neville is one of the first cars out. The number 29 will be the first to cross the line, actually. That's going to be George Vasiliadis, of course, one of our championship contenders, who has continued to shine every single race this season, except for last week and actually the week before in the first race. He has scored 95 points, but is only P3 in the championship. Stein von Uneker leads it with 105 points in the Ferrari, with Josh Redhead not far behind with 103 points. Then, of course, we've got George Vasiliadis in P3, Chris Mouchard in P4, and Nick Novell rounds out the top 5 with 50 points. And we can see most of our championship contenders actually in the same shot, if it's a nice shot. So we've got George here, and then we've got Redhead behind. You can actually hear the other Mercedes. Hopefully we'll be able to see him soon, as they now come into turn 8 to begin their final sector, their final warm-up sector before the actual flying lap. So there's Curtis in the Mustang behind. We can see Neville also not far in the distance. And there's Redhead in the lime blue and black Mercedes. The number... need to find it now. The number 9 behind, the number 29 ahead, Curtis the number 3, and then Novell the 888. Reese Valentine saying, I can't hear the cars. Easy fix for that, my dude. Ah, no. Yes, it helps if you unmute things, doesn't it? Always helps if you unmute things. I apologise if things are a little slower tonight and I'm a little off the ball tonight. It was very much, late kind of research and late kind of stuff. It's been a bit of a rushed week. But let me know about how your weeks are going. I know we've only got 3 other people in the stream besides me, Reese Val. Let me know how your week's been, mate. And how come you're not out on track at the moment? Because I believe you're participating earlier in the season. Cool, here we go. First flying lap of the qualifying for Mr. Vasiliadis. You can see Redhead in the background there as well. Let's see what this looks like from the bonnet. This is the highly technical section, turns 3 through 7. And unfortunately Vasiliadis has gone wide, and that will allow Redhead through to begin the first, to set his first lap time of the session. But he's also invalidated his lap time, coincidentally. The only driver in this stack who hasn't invalidated it is Jacob Curtis in the Mustang. I saw Vasiliadis pull over to the side just to allow the cars behind to pull through, so that he's not getting in their way. But for Redhead, he wants that open space ahead. He wants that advantage of having no pressure from, he's got loads of pressure from behind, but no one to interfere from the front, at least for now. Maybe later on in qualifying when things have gone wrong, yes, that might be when you encounter some difficulties. But for now, he's got a nice open space. Jacob Curtis, he's also got a decent separation distance to the Mercedes ahead, so he's got plenty of space, plenty of time to do what he wants. Ah, yes, apologies, Valentine. you can tell it's been a rushed week. You can tell it's a bit of a rushed one. Yeah, I see you in P12. Obviously not out yet. Now, for the new viewers again, it's a split qualifying session. So the first 10 minutes were for the AMs, the second 10 minutes are for the Pro-Ams, and the final 10 minutes are going to be for the Pros. And of course, Reese Valentine, a Pro, not out yet. I'm not out on track yet, hence why I didn't quite notice the name. Redhead comes across the line in P4, and Kurtz comes across the line in P7. So actually, Redhead didn't actually invalidate his lap time, which is odd. Not sure whether that's just me reading the telemetry wrong or something. Probably is. Right, who else can we keep an eye out for? We've obviously got Stein von Uneker to watch out for, but I don't think he's racing tonight. Nick Neville, also in P5 in the championship with 50 points. He's one to keep an eye on during qualifying. Who else can we kind of wonder about? We've got HSR who did fairly decently last week. HSR P7 last week, P4 the first time he raced with us in Laguna Seca, the double header, 2 30-minute sprints. So not bad at all for Mr. Cook. We've got, who else? Vasiliadis still on a flying lap, still to set his first best lap. Lynn and the Cock are both challenging Curtis for P2. Ozduru is another driver to keep an eye on. Where is Ozduru? Ozduru is P12 at the moment, but he hasn't set any laps yet, so this of course will be his attempt at a fast lap, but he's struggling to keep the McLaren on track and actually goes sliding off at turn 8 and corrected, and there's another DSRT car coming in the background. That's going to be the Cock or Lynn. I suspect that's Lynn, yes, now coming through the final sector. Sorry, no, that was the Cock. We've actually got 3 McLaren DSRT cars. This is the Cock. Lynn is now coming across the line. Where will Lynn come out? I'm not sure. It's going to be an interesting one. Lynn, he's got a big improvement through the first and second sectors, so this could work out well for him. Could this be pole position for the man in the McLaren? The number 36 comes across the line now and takes P2. Ricard now across the line as well to set his first lap time, but unfortunately invalidated previously. Who else do we have? We've got Neville as well, potentially coming across the line at some point in the near future. No one really to watch out for other than Redhead as well, trying to set a better lap time. You can see he's already catching up to Ozduru in the foreground there. And that's again just due to the fact that, yeah, in qualifying things can get turned around a bit. Reese Valentine saying, been a good week, had a bad race on this track on Wednesday, so hoping for some good points today. And yeah, my week's been interesting. It's been busy, it's been high energy, even just this evening. But I look forward to watching this and having some more high-paced stuff going on, and then I'm going to have a big old crash on the sofa. Well, more likely my bed. Just yeah, nice to calm down after so much high-paced energy. 2.5 minutes remaining, so these guys will be in a frantic frenzy, a high-pace qualifying session, so to speak, for us to Vasiliadis and the Cock, as well as Ricard and Neville. Actually, we've only got 3 cars who have managed to set in a valid lap time, so for the cars behind it will be less a case of setting a fast lap time or pushing the limits, trying to get the best lap time possible. Obviously you want to do that, obviously you want to qualify high, but at the same time you got to get a lap in, otherwise you're not going to be starting very high, you'll be starting behind everyone else. Curtis managed to set a lap time, that brings the number up to 4. Vasiliadis actually qualified P3, and Redhead continues to build the gap to Lynn with 0.4 seconds, but Lynn on an improvement himself coming out the final corner. Now what can he do when it comes to pole position and improving his own position on the grid? He comes across the line, it's an improvement, but not enough yet. Other improvers, George Vasiliadis, again a car to watch out for, a driver to keep an eye on throughout the race and qualifying. He's been solid through both sessions all season long. So I'm anticipating some great stuff from the Mercedes driver. He's been shining all season with some great results every single race, and you can really pick up on the drivers who are really good and really fast and really consistent. Because I noticed it quite a lot when I had my endurance race on last week Saturday in the Onid Endurance Championship. Shout out to Onid, by the way, who are some absolutely amazing guys. I would definitely recommend you go check them out as well. But yeah, the pace that my teammate had over me was just incredible. Just you could immediately tell any cars he was tailing, he was catching them immediately, and he could already see the difference real quick. Whereas for me, it felt like a hard, long slog, and I didn't really get anywhere or make any major improvements. But that's what Vasiliadis is to me. He's the driver that's fast all the time, and he makes improvements just like that, just in the blink of a moment. And it is only a blink of the moment, a blink of the eye, in which qualifying will end. 10 seconds as Vasiliadis now pulls into the pits. A final few laps. We've got Ozduru coming across the line at some point, but I think he's invalidated his lap time, so it won't really count, and he'll be starting from the... Oh, actually, no, valid again. Sorry, I just don't understand the info on screen. So he's come across in P7, finally set a valid lap time. Lynn not too far ahead, well, 8/10 ahead. Can he improve on his position? Can he take pole position away from Josh Redhead as he comes across the line? It's an improvement yet again, but only by a few thousandths. And I think we only have one more driver, Curtis, to come across the line and improve on his position. So 2.1 seconds to the pole position driver, who is of course still Huben. Of course, the track conditions are worsening, hence why we might see an AM start from the front, but I believe we might see some good stuff from the pros later. And Curtis decides to pull in, and we do have the pros now out on track. Yes, this is the serious stuff. This is where a load of pace and all the consistency comes. And you can see everyone just desperate to be out in front, get themselves some good space, and that straight is a really nice space to do so. It is a 5-kilometre long circuit, 5.7 kilometre long circuit actually, so there's plenty of room, plenty of space to get yourself some racing room during qualifying, so to speak. So I guess it's not really racing room, qualifying room if you want to call it. But yeah, pros, we have got some interesting battles going on in the Pro Championship. Christian Graniero leading at the moment with 108 points. Alessandro Penati not too far behind with 104 points. So then a bigger gap down to Lorenzo Cottalessa in third with 85 points, to Miro in P4 with 66 points, but Brandon Kleinen is hot on his heels with 66 points. Brandon Kleinen with 64 points, to Miro in P4 with 66. So only a 2-point difference there. And then of course we've got the rest of the top 10. Christian, fitting that he should be the first to come across the line as our championship leader, and you know, maybe this says a little something about the attitude you need to take when you're racing and leading a championship or fighting for a championship win. Christian Graniero, this is his first season with us, actually. Any of our previous champions in today? Yes, we've got Peters, our Season 3 champion. We do have Matthew Jordan in as our Season 5 champion, but unfortunately he's not here today. He's driving a Mustang, but Peters is in the number 77 Ferrari, and he's kind of right in the middle of things. Christian Graniero will be the first to come across the line to set the first flying lap for the pros, the benchmark for everyone to beat. And as you can see, track conditions are only getting worse. It's now damp and a little bit of side wind for Graniero as he comes through the long right-hander. And the weather's just going to keep worsening. It's 10 minutes until the rain increases, 30 minutes until it increases even more. It kind of makes you wonder what the race will be like. It's making me wonder, because we've had rain during qualifying and then obviously rain during the race, which makes sense, of course. However, sometimes it can just change really quickly, but considering the race details, you know, it should stay fairly consistent. The weather forecast is telling us it will stay rainy for the race. Now, a little detail about the race: we've got a mandatory pit stop for fuel, while tyres are optional. Now, of course, the refuel time is fixed at 25 seconds, and a tyre change takes 30 seconds, and you can do both at the same time, which means at the end of the day, when you pit, it's either a decision to hold off on the new tyres, seeing as it's wet will probably be the most common option, or you can go for the fresh tyres and lose 5 seconds. But as I literally just said, you know, it's wet. We're not likely going to be changing tyres much, so I anticipate everyone leaning more towards just fueling, and that's it. The interesting thing about racing in the wet is, of course, staying off the curbs, but you can pick up a lot of time by using as much of the track as possible, and you can see Graniero doing just that. And actually, it's not working out too badly for him. He's on a 1:59.2, and he's still not pole, but again, you know, there's still opportunity to gain some time, gain some position. Well, he's at the front, so not really gain positions. How about ensure himself against any more positions. He'll have to ensure himself against P2 in the championship. Alessandro Penati, the number 58, who's had some great performances this season. Only two non-podium finishes. He's been really consistent, really fast, and at the moment his Sector 1 and Sector 2 times look really decent. Let's see whether he can hold on to that in Sector 3. Nope, he can't hold on to the lap time if he can't hold on to the traction. And Penati then loses out his shot at a flying lap, or qualifying lap, depending on how you like to say it. And he will be restarting his lap. We've got Graniero coming across the line soon to start his next quali lap. Tamiro is another name to watch out for. He's been also incredibly fast this season, but unfortunately just not as consistent. He's been in the top 10, top 5, 2 podiums. That's about it. It's kind of a bit more all over the place for the number 268 as he comes across the line now. No improvement for him, but Graniero improves, and he's now up to a 159 dead, essentially. Tapanidas in the Mercedes, the number 84, comes across the line. So does Kleinen, Hubert, Peters, Penati, Valentine down at P13. We still have Kotsalesa and Samuel to set a lap time. Kleinen already on an improvement as he comes out of the final corner. He's had a decent first and second sector. Where will this put him? He puts him just within reach of P5. 0.45 seconds between himself and Sapanidas for P5, which in the end will actually be P3 in the Pro Class, because remember it's interclass racing, so this might spice up a little later, either with interclass battling or just straight up one-on-one fighting with some of your classmates. But considering that the Pro-Ams and the Ams have mixed up very, very thoroughly from P10 downwards, I would say, yeah, it's gonna be a lot of interclass racing, a lot of trying to gain position on a differently classed driver, just so you have security against a similarly classed driver behind. Christian Graniero, a good couple sectors in, again still in pole position as he now comes through the final couple corners. And it is a bit wet, it's damp, it's not actively raining, but it did get a little more wet since the start. I think it is slightly drizzly, but maybe just a little bit. Right, now I've got a question. Will he come across the line in time to set another qualifying lap after this next one? Because it takes about 2 minutes to set a qualifying lap. It's going to be close. He improves. It's a sub 2 minute, a 159.055, so it's improved by a couple hundredths and thousandths. Anyone else to keep an eye on? No, not really. Brandon Kleinen, that driver from earlier, not really making improvements. Kurt Peters just came across the line. Yeah, no improvement there, unfortunately, for the Ferrari driver, a previous HSR champion. And you've got Penati also just ahead, the number 58. But drivers now only have one final shot at qualifying. Maybe the only driver who was a shot at 2 more laps is Graniero, our championship and qualifying leader at the moment. However, for the others, it's going to be only one more lap. You can see Hubert in the number 1 Porsche struggling to hold on to the traction for that 911. I can imagine it must be quite a handful here. Trying to get on the power early. And yeah, having a twitchy rear end on a wet circuit can be very interesting. And just looking at Hubert's driving throughout the first 3 quarters of the season, that's where we are right now. Can you believe it? 6 out of 8 races. We're in the 3rd quartile already, 75%. But throughout that first 3 quarters of the season, he's always seemed to keep the car right on the edge. He's always been trying to push the limits of those rear end tyres all the time, and he's really just been pushing it all the way. And this is a driver you can tell who pushes the car as much as he can. He puts in 110% all the way. It's an entertaining driver to watch, I have to say. Hubert is entertaining to watch. Another driver who will be entertaining to watch during the race potentially is Graniero up in P1, or it could turn out to be a dead boring race for him as it comes across the line now. Is he going to have a shot at another lap across the line? And he will just barely have time set one more, but he decides, nope, I'm out. Or it could be his fuel's gone. No improvement for him, though. So Benitez will be coming across the line at some point in the future as well. Hubert will be coming across the line too. Samuel down in P22 with a valid lap time, struggling out on the wet circuit, but he is up 4/10 as he comes through the first sector now. If he can improve through the second and third sector, we might see some top 10 stuff from him. Hopefully we can see some great stuff there. So Benitez just came across the line. Miro takes P2, Cotalessa P3, Valentine in P14 is not too far ahead. He'll be looking to take a lap, but unfortunately runs out wide, and that is his qualifying over. So it is only Cairo Samuel to finish off our qualifying session for both the pros and overall. Coming through the final sector, he's up half a second in his first and second sectors. That will put him at about P18, and unfortunately still the slowest pro out on circuit as he now makes his way through the S's, through Curleban, through Virage de la Tour, through Virage du Pont, out into turn 13, the right-hander, that hairpin, get on the throttle, nice and clean, powering down towards the finish line. Where will this put him? Across the line, Samuel comes in P19. And that is the end of qualifying. Join us in just a few moments for the start of the race. 60 minutes of action. And we'll see you all in just a few moments. Grab yourself a snack, grab yourself some water as well, and enjoy. Hello and welcome back to the HSR Motorsport GT3 Season 6 Championship, and today you join us for round 6 here at a soaking wet circuit Paul Ricard. Now we've got a race ahead of us. We've got 60 minutes of action with a mandatory pit stop for fuel. Tyres will be non-mandatory, so that's optional, but of course in the wet we might not see too many drivers pit for dries unless the track decides to dry up, and it seems to be doing so in about half an hour, as you can see with the weather forecast up on the top right hand of your screen. And that also gives you the current conditions, track temperatures, wind, condition of the track. So wet at the moment, so many drivers will be going for those wet tyres. But let's do a quick rundown of qualifying results. We've got Christian Graniero in P1 with Johan Huben in P2 alongside, can you believe it, a Pro and an AM sharing the front row of the grid. In P3, we've got Nicholas Mumtaz, another AM, to Miro, a pro, and the rest are pros now as we go to Lorenzo Cotalessa, Marios Tsapanidis, Brandon Kleinen, and Joshua Hubert. We've got Kurt Peters in P9 with Alessandro Panatti alongside, rounding out your top 10. Josh Redhead, P1 for the Pro-Ams, Nick Brum, P3 for the AMs, and this is where a bit of interclass mixing comes in. Wei Long Lin in P13 with Reese Valentine alongside in P14. George Vasiliadis in P15, the number 343 in P16, Emre Ozduru. Nico Zilidis is in P17 with Jacob Curtis alongside, and Samuel brings up the rear of the pros down in P19 as Harold de Kock takes P20. Tony Rucroft rounds out the AM grid in P21 with Chris Mouchard in P22, and Nick Novell bringing up the rear of the overall grid and the Pro-Am grid. Now the race starts. What can we expect? It is going to be absolute mayhem. It is going to be incredibly difficult to see what's happening on ahead. There's going to be tons of spray. There's the usual chaos for a race start, even in dry conditions on top of that. Yeah, things just go a whole lot worse when it's a wet race start, let alone a normal race start, especially on a small circuit like this where, well, I say small, it's actually 5.7 kilometers long. It's not that small, but they're narrow. I'd say that first corner is very narrow. It's a chicane. Drivers are going to be miscalculating their speed in. Then there's going to be utter chaos. I had a similar race over the weekend actually at Donington where it was sopping wet, and yeah, the amount of chaos that can happen here in these conditions is incredibly, it's unimaginable unless you've actually done it, and even then you're kind of shocked when it happens. So Graniero in P1, our championship leader for the pro category, with Huben in P2, also in the lead for his championship. Josh Redhead in P11 will probably inherit the championship lead if we can keep Vasiliadis behind, who's in P14 back here. Now Vasiliadis, again, as we talked about earlier, he's incredibly fast, he's incredibly consistent, so Redhead will be trying to keep Brum and Valentine behind him to keep Vasiliadis even further behind. Ozduru in that McLaren behind will also be looking to make some progress up the field and take potentially a podium. And then, of course, we've got those AMs right up at the top who will probably be filtered out by the leaders fairly quickly, filtered out by the pros. Of course, you know, they're just as entitled to fight for these positions as the pros are. So it's up to them really whether they want to give this up. But of course they have their own battle for the race lead going on in P2 and P3. Very interesting qualifying session indeed then. It started in a greasy condition and then progressed on to damp. Hence why the laps following that were a little slower for the Pro-Ams. But of course the pros, they pulled it through. Most of them managed to make it up there except for Cairo Samuel. Unfortunately, P18 is not quite managing the pace, as well as Reese Valentine in P13. Still close to his brothers and sisters in the in the pro class. But yeah, it's going to be a bit of a struggle for Samuel to catch up to these guys unless he can take advantage of all this race start chaos. Do need to keep the rest of the pro grid in mind. We've got Cotalessa in today, we've got Miro, Tsapanidis, Klein and Hubert. We've got Peters and Panatti down in P10. Panatti is P2 in the championship, so it's not exactly ideal for him to be starting up there. And Lynn is actually starting from the pits, the number 26 in the pit lane right now, which is, it could actually be a tactical call considering the amount of chaos we could potentially see here. But at the same time, starting from the pits, you're starting from dead last, guaranteed. So it's not much more to say about that, as our drivers now are all in their double column formation for the race start to start the 6th race of the season here at HSR Motorsport GT3. And it's go time. 23 cars go roaring down to turn 1 to start 60 minutes of racing, and Munters has had a great start. He's already overtaken Huben for the race lead in the AM class. We do have Cottalessa on the inside of Miro behind, making a position. There's contact between the two Aston Martins. Chaos ensues at turn 1. This Aston Martin's going round in circles as chaos continues. There's Hubertov, there's Valentinov, there's Penatiov. We've got Redhead now inheriting a load of positions. We've got a Ferrari behind there as well. That looks like Brum benefiting from plenty of positions. Alessandro behind. He's going to be wanting to make up those positions at the end, and Graniero still stays out in the lead. Munters is currently in P2, but he's got Cottalessa all over the back of him. Cottalessa, the good race start, has got to catch up to Christian Graniero ahead if he wants a shot at the race lead, but he does have Munters, the BMW with superior power down the main straight. That's not the biggest battle though, as Penati is on the inside of Redhead for the next corner. Turn 8 is that fast right-hander. Can he get past before they get to the breaking point? That's going to be a very interesting question to answer out of this battle between Samuel Huben. No, sorry, that's Mouchard, Curtis, and Huben. Huben, of course, started the race in P2 and then had a collision with Tamiro, which is incredibly unlucky, seeing as they are two teammates, two sister cars essentially. And yeah, Huben managed to make the move stick. It's a AM making the move on the Pro-Am. And here is Chaos down here in P16. Kleinen and De Kock. We've got Ziludis, we've got Vasiliadis. Oh my goodness, and both cars go wide there. Actually, that's just Ziludis going wide there. Two cars go for the price of one. They both say, thank you very much, sir. I'll take that for you. But now as we come through the final couple corners for the first lap, the order has been shaken up massively. Christian Graniero still in P1, but Cottalessa now in P2. Miro not too far behind Jacob Curtis now for P10. And Johan Huben is just ahead. There's the move from Timiro down the inside into the final corner. Just given enough space. Great stuff from the Mustang. Great space. We've got Kleinen also fighting for P14. The two pros about to go hand to hand into turn 1. Is there anything the Aston Martin can do to defend against this McLaren going down the inside? Well, he's had a look. There's nothing there, no potential yet, and our drivers have already started separating themselves. They've already started building gaps between them, except up here in P7. We've got Brum in the Ferrari ahead, Ozduru right behind him. Oh my goodness, and Ozduru goes off track for the overtake. Will he have to give that position back? I think so. Valentine in the background also wanting to get past. We've got Cairo Samuel, the decent start up the inside of Valentine for this right-hander into turn 7. Ooh, there's going to be tight. Watch out for the left-hander. Keep it clean. Some great racing going on here. And I think Cairo Samuel has just about made that stick. Mouchard in the background makes the overtake. 3 McLarens going hand-to-hand here in the top 10. And Mouchard makes a good move around the outside. We've got plenty of slipstreaming action going on ahead. We've got Nick Brum on the back end of Emery Azduri. Then we've, of course, got Valentine and Mouchard fighting here. We've got Brandon Kleinen, who just got past Miro in that battle for P13. We've got Curtis also in the background going around the outside into Miro for the next corner. Can he hold on to it? No, he can't. He's wide, and actually loses out to George Vasiliadis in the process, and that was not interclass battling. This is just Vasiliadis making progress up the grid once more. And Mouchard now allows Cairo Samuel to pull through. There's the move on Nick Brum. Oh my goodness, it's tight through here. Watch out for collisions, boys, because any contact here is going to be disastrous. As we saw lap 1, the two DSRT Aston Martins came together. There's a move from Valentine down the inside. He saw the window was still open. That window of opportunity left by Mouchard. Mouchard's exit is going to be compromised here. Can Valentine get the better exit? Yes, well, Mouchard thinks so. He pulls in. Oh, actually, he pulls completely into the pits. That's odd. So I assume there's something going on with damage there. We've got the two DSRT cars, Huben and Miro, the two cars that collided earlier, going head-to-head here for P11. Of course, being sister cars, I'm sure there's some form of communication between them. Miro has got Kleinen ahead of him, and he needs to make that up. Sorry, no, that's actually Huben. Huben behind Kleinen, and Miro lost out to Huben. So I guess that might just be a way of apologising for what happened earlier, because, yeah, unfortunately we saw two sister cars essentially take each other out on the first lap. But here we go for close battle. Reese Valentine, Kleinen and Brum. Brum in the Ferrari being assaulted by two pros, but he is allowed to race for these positions just as much as everyone else is. Valentine goes wide, Kleinen on the inside, and I think Brum has left slightly. There's Miro in the background making a move. Actually, that's Huben. And we've got 4 wide here now, down into turn 8, almost. Valentine on the inside. We've got Huben there. Brum trying to defend his position from Kleinen. He's on the inside. This is going to turn out very interesting for the next couple corners. What can he do? Brum still trying to defend. We've also got Vasiliadis down the inside of an Aston Martin there. That's his position made on Miro. And there's chaos now as Brum got overtaken by Kleinen. He's got Huben now around the outside as well. Is this going? Oh, actually, this is very interesting. It is. Wow. No, sorry, that is Tim Miro. Sorry. I'm getting the two Aston Martins mixed up. Miro makes a position on Valentine. Vasiliadis now joins the back of this pack. And it's just chaos down here. We've got Valentine holding on barely. He's got Vasiliadis all over the back of him. Huben not too far behind. Huben's still somehow in P3 for his class. Oh my goodness, and there's Brum losing it. Watch out. Oh my goodness. I don't know. Did he take anyone out? No. Woo! Incredibly tight through there. Very fortunate indeed that he didn't take anyone out. Ooh, that was close. So then the order at the end of that massive battle. Tim Miro ahead of Valentine, Kleinen emerging the victor in that scenario. P9 for him, P10 for Miro. Oh my goodness, and Valentine almost takes out the number 268 after missing his braking point, and it is very tricky to get consistent braking down in the rain, as I found out last week when yeah, I almost sent it straight into the back of someone in a similar fashion. Curtis in P14 up behind Johan Huben for P13. Again, this long train of drivers in the middle section of the field, looking to make some progress over their rivals. Kurt Peters right up behind Brum again, just bumper to bumper contact inevitable at some point, I think, through this left hand, and no, all clean still. But look at how close Peters is. There's enough space for maybe a piece of paper, definitely not a credit card. And Brum, yeah, he's taken all the pressure this race. He's already taken pressure from that group who's already passed him ahead. He's got pressure from Kurt Peters now behind. Ferrari v Ferrari as they head into turn 8, 0.3 seconds between them. Is there anything he can do? Well, Peters has dropped back a little bit, so whether that's just purely down to the fact he's not quite managing to keep up to the Ferrari head, I don't know. Maybe exits was compromised, but he's now right up on the back of him yet again into turn 9, going around the outside, going the long way, and it is pretty much neck and neck. Oh my goodness, and there's contact between the two of them, and Peters is sent flying out to the left, and Brum, yeah, unfortunately takes out Peters, who also loses a place to Ziludis. Oh my goodness, there's Curtis. Curtis has had a wreck somewhere. Curtis has had a wreck with someone. He's had a wreck with Tim Miro by the looks of it. We need a replay. What's happened here? Here we go, through the long right hander. We've got Miro ahead. Valentine there as well. Into the left-hander. Because he had massive damage on his bonnet, so something oh my goodness! There's suddenly a stationary Aston Martin, and the Mustang just plows into the rear end. It's damage repair for Curtis. If it's loaded in enough fuel, I mean, regardless, he should just be able to pit whenever he likes, but at the same time, he just decides to keep going. P18 for him at the moment, that's P5 for his class, so all is not yet lost for the Mustang driver. But yeah, very unexpected. I did not expect to see an Aston Martin just sat in the middle of the road. That was very odd. What's not odd is the battle between Samuel and Kleinen. Two McLarens once again battling each other, and Kleinen decides to go for the outside. Samuel defending his position. He's got Osduro ahead, trying to get some slipstream, but there's nothing he can do. I believe at the same time, though, Samuel did kind of give that position over to him. I saw his hazard lights flash, so there was potential there to defend the position if he kept up the momentum, and Osduro decides to let these through since they are in the higher class. But that means he's given up the track position on Redhead. Maybe his strategy is to let these two catch up to Redhead, do the overtaking on him, slow him down, and then he's brought into that fight automatically. I don't know. We've got all these little variables, all these little strategies that can play out over the course of this race. 0.3 seconds between Brum and Miro. Well, actually, Miro's already passed Brum. I was going to say it is there, but the orange is the new black team car. Yeah, well, I mean, I'm seeing a lot of red. And fortunately, yeah, unfortunately for him, he's been struggling a bit with the on-track action. He's just not quite managed to keep a hold of those positions. Here we go, Redhead, the two race leaders actually for the AM and Pro-Am class, about to go head-to-head, and I think they're going to try and keep this clean into the next right-hander. It's Redhead on the inside. It's a good overtake. It's a good move from the Mercedes. Puts it in the right place. And that is a P5 for Redhead. And he's got a decent amount of separation between himself and Osduru for P2. Mumtaz still has a massive gap down to Huben in P12. So his race lead is still very strong. So is Redhead. Grandiero, though, not too strong. He's only 2.3 seconds ahead of Corsa, but their fastest lap times are separated by about a tenth. Christian Graniero is the slower 10th. Can he believe it? So we could potentially still see a fight on for the race lead at some point tonight. 0.3 seconds here. Harold the Cook. We've got Peters. We've got the McLaren of the Cook. Yeah, we've got Brum just ahead. So I think Peters must have had a bad exit out of that final corner onto the straight. Oh my goodness, we've got White from Brandon Clayton. Something happened here, but no, apparently not. Kurt Peters right up behind the McLaren now. Can he make that position, stick into turn 8? He's looking. No, nothing there for him, unless he was just staying off the curbs. Because, of course, when it's sopping wet, it's, of course, very slippery and you get into this traction really quickly, and there's nothing you can do about it. You're just a passenger. Nick Neville just lost the position to Lynn, but he's still trying to fight that into turn 9 and ends up going wide. Definitely a track limits, definitely a track cut. Whether it's a track limits warning, I don't know. Oh, my goodness, Kalinin with a stop-and-go 10. Oh, my goodness. Something serious up here in the top 10. Kalinin decides to go for it right away. Vasiliadis inherits a position, so does Valentine, so does Osturu and Samuel. Wow. Things are happening. We do have Craig Hewlett, the server owner and founder, as our live steward for tonight, so I'm sure he'll be putting in some hefty penalties if it's been slightly, I don't know if it's been slightly less, slightly more lenient. So yeah, I don't know. Is this founder / owner brutality? Is this fairness? I don't know actually, because we still need to see what happens to Clayton. Karu Samuel now up on the rear end of Mumtaz, as we were talking about earlier. The AMs will eventually be filtered out by these pros and pro-AMs who are faster over the course of the race, and the track condition has gone from wet to damp, I've just noticed, so this could turn into a dry circuit at the very end of the race. We've only got 46 minutes remaining in the race. When I say only 46, that's about half race length last week, hence why I say only 46 minutes. But believe me, 46 minutes can go by in a flash. Samuel goes down the inside into turn 9. Great move from the number 7. Mumtaz just keeps his momentum going. George Vasiliadis right up behind Emery Azdira, and he makes the move for P2 down the inside of the left-hander. Can he hold on to this? Yes, he can. It's a long left-hander out onto the exit. That almost called it an Aston Martin. That Mercedes is very stable at the curbs. So is the Aston Martin, but maybe not as stable. But I've heard some interesting stuff about the Mercedes and how it is to drive it. And Nick Brum and Kurt Peters once again going head-to-head. Two Ferraris fighting, and this time Peters makes the move stick through the right-hander. It's going to be a desperate lunge down the inside for Brum. No, it isn't. He's in P3 for his class already. As long as he can stay consistent, he will stay in that podium position, but he takes out Peters. Oh my goodness, this is the second time we've seen Brum go head-to-head with a fellow Ferrari. In fact, this is the second time he's gone head-to-head with Peters himself and takes him out for P12. Brum has been known to be rather desperate in his defending, and Jake Curtis is off as well. Is this all related to that incident with Peters? We're going to need a replay once more. 30 seconds back in time we go. We've got Curtis up behind Zilidis. There's Peters. Oh my goodness, it was just a touch from the McLaren behind. Oh my goodness. So not related at all. Oh my goodness, and Rucroft, he just sees all this chaos and he's like, whoa, what's going on here? Slows down. And yeah, I mean, yeah, wow. I don't know. I don't know what to say about Brum. That was just plain unnecessary. That just looked very, I don't know, it almost looked deliberate. I'm not sure, but what do you guys think? Brum with a 10-second time penalty. With the Cook right up behind, and he's going to be making this move into turn 8, no doubt. Potentially turn 9 if he can keep the momentum going, and he's not passed yet. There it is, move down the inside, but the Cook is right up on the inside there. And both of their exits are going to be completely destroyed as they come out of turn 8 into turn 9. Brum is defending his position. This is a driver that has been known to defend very heavily. We saw plenty of that action at Zolder, not last time, but the time before that in the 2 30-minute sprints. And in the first race, Brum was defending his head off. He was just completely, there was just no way of getting past him. It didn't matter who you were, what class you were in, Brum defended it really hard. He didn't let you by. This is a driver that doesn't discriminate. He races hard. Sometimes, I would say, personally, I think unfairly, but you know, it is what it is. Dirty drivers do exist. Unfortunately, Brum is just one of our dirty drivers. But at the same time, you know, it could just be a style of racing that I just don't like. I'm the kind of guy that won't go for a move if I don't see any good potential in it. Cook saw a little bit of potential in there if we could have gotten some momentum, but unfortunately nothing there. Karu Samuels gets a penalty, a 15-second time penalty, as Vasiliadis now pulls up to the rear of Mumtaz. Again, this arm is being filtered down. Huben is only 2 positions away. Vasiliadis is 2-3 positions away from Reddit, and you can actually see the Mercedes in the foreground, well actually in the background, but he's ahead of Vasiliadis, hence the confusion. And here we go, Vasiliadis, he will get this move done into turn 8, no problem, under braking. He's had the slipstream, he's got the top speed. Is he far enough alongside? Yes, he is. And he takes that position away from Mumtaz, so Vasiliadis up into P7. And Mumtaz just keeps up his momentum. So there's near no effect on Mumtaz's race at this point. But now he only has one driver between himself and Huben, and if Huben has got the pace advantage on Mumtaz, that could turn into a battle for the race lead for the AM class. Looking at their fastest lap times, Huben is about 2/10 faster on his fastest lap. So it does seem as though he is gaining a little bit, and Nick Brum once again the centre of controversy with 2 DSR team McLarens, the Cook and Lynn, trying to get past him. One of them has managed, and you've got the Cook on the inside keeping his nose there, showing Brum that he wants that position, and he's going to fight for it hard, and he's going to take that position regardless of what Brum says. I definitely need a look at how the other McLaren got past, because there is no way he got past without Brum throwing a fit or throwing his car into him. I'm not gonna lie. Brum once again, very entertaining to watch, but not the cleanest, or yeah, not the cleanest driver, I will say. He's got Zilidis behind him though, so this is going to be an even bigger fight. P4 for Zilidis, P3 on the line. Brum trying to defend the final podium position, not into turn 1. Is going to be a dive from the McLaren? No, he does decide to pull back. That's Brum slightly wide on the exit though. Can Zilidis close the gap as they head towards turn 3? Of course, he's got the straight as his best opportunity to overtake. But now, of course, they both have a Ferrari alongside. That's going to be Kurt Peters trying to unlap himself, and he didn't manage to get past Zilidis. I'm sure all he's going to be seeing is red now, because he's got the driver that took him out twice ahead of him. Is it going to be third time lucky? I don't know. Len and the Cook swap positions just ahead. Good good teamwork going on here, or just straight up pace difference, I don't know. Nick Novell, oh my goodness, Joshua Hubert is off circuit a little further down, but let's hop back on with Nick Novell and Zilidis. This could curb Zilidis' progress up the grid and his fight for P3 in the class. Novell wants a position though, he wants to start fighting for the top 5 in the Pro-Ams, but he doesn't quite have the top end speed. He doesn't have the high speed that the McLaren does down the straights, and even as he pulls out of the slipstream, there's nothing he can do, even with that extra momentum. Peters now going around the outside to get past Brum as well, and it's a dive down the inside from Novell. Great move, under braking, utilising the Porsche's superior brakes. Incredible stuff from the number 888. Great stuff, good job. Brum trying to defend his position from Peters because it is a blue flag car, technically speaking, but Peters manages to get past. Will it be a similar scenario into turn 13? I don't think so, but all the same, I'm sure Peters is unsure of how this will go when actually the Porsche in the background almost takes out Brum and gives him some of his own medicine from earlier. Again, this could be a position on the line for Brum if Novell makes his way past, because then again, it's Zilidis coming up behind Brum for P3 in the AM class. So fighting for podium positions all the way down in P14 on the line here. Brum has got 10 seconds penalty against him, but under the acceleration, there we go. Novell down the inside for the next right-hander. Into turn 3 we go. Under braking though, the Ferrari just files ahead, he just flies ahead. Brum deciding to just go full send. Oh my goodness, and Novell gives Brum some of his own medicine, spins him out, but does the honourable thing and allows the Ferrari to rejoin the circuit first, and in that process Zilidis takes P3 for the class. And yeah, Brum in all, well, karma served, I think, is one way to look at it. Another, and there we go, you can see he's thanking Novell behind for giving the position. Now, that's the difference between, that's a good sportsmanship there. That's Novell being good. He's taking out a fellow competitor, he's allowing him past, he's not in a dangerous place. They've both gone off circuit, and he allows Brum to rejoin first, which is great. That's what you want to see. But yeah, unfortunately, Brum doesn't quite feel inclined to do the same to any competitors he takes off track. Although he wasn't off track himself, so technically, then it might be better just to keep going. But I know people appreciate that, and Pete is going drifting around the left-hander of turn 10. These conditions are very tricky indeed. The track is damp now, so it is starting to lighten up now, and the rain will continue to lighten up in 30 minutes, but it is still the same for the next 10 minutes. So again, could we see the track completely dry by the end of it? I don't think so. But again, there's a lot of hesitation, there's a lot of uncertainty here, especially, whenever the rain is around, there is always going to be that uncertainty. There's always an extra added factor. So, the action seems to have calmed down a little bit. We've got Christian Graniero in the lead right now, overall and for the Pro class. 5 seconds ahead of Lorenzo Cortellessa, 300ths faster on his fastest lap. P2 is, of course, Cortellessa in the Ferrari, with Marios Tsapanidis in P3 in the Mercedes. So some good stuff from the number 84. Then for your Pro-Am class, we've got George Redhead. I combined the two names here. George Redhead and Josh Vasiliadis. They both start with J's, all right? Give me a break. We've got Josh Redhead in P1, George Vasiliadis in P2, and in P3 down all the way in P9 actually overall is Emre Azuri, who coincidentally is coming up on the race leader for the AMS. Nicholas Mumtaz in the BMW, and he's just had a quiet race. He's just let these guys through. And Nick Brum now up in P15 again on the defense from the Porsche, and Brum is just outside your top 3, your podium positions for the AM class. The drivers who are in the podium positions are Jan Huben and Nico Zilidis, who gained that position after a collision between Nick Novell and Brum. you could say, again, it was almost calmer between these two. Brum took out Kurt Peters twice this race, and the first time he did it, it was just a door-to-door kind of door bang, hip check. It wasn't really anything too serious, and it could be explained away. But yeah, the other time, the second time, he came into the rear of him and a hairpin, and it was just, yeah, it was pure, just too late on the brakes, misjudged it, and took him out. And that's what Novell did earlier as well, as they headed out onto the main straight. But now here we go onto the pit straight, and I think this is the first time we've seen Brum go defensive into turn 1. Comes over to try and squeeze the Porsche, and there's nothing the Porsche can do, there's nothing Novell can do except pull back in behind Brum, trying to go down the inside. There was a window there, I could see him go for it. There was a little bit of hesitation there, unless he pulled straight back out. So there's nothing on the line here for, well, there's no night and day for Novell through that right-hander, and again he'll have to wait for the straight. Harold de Kock is struggling slightly slower. Emre Özduru, of course, still up behind Mumtaz. And yes, the the pit chaos might start soon. 34 minutes remaining in this race. We could see some pit stop chaos coming. We've got some penalties to be served. We've got Cairo Samuel in P7 as the number 7 car. Call it fate or a curse, as Mike Norse might say. Well, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But he is currently P5 for his class, so I don't think that's quite a curse. 15-second time penalty for him, though. He'll have to serve that in the pits. That would put him down just outside the top 10, I think. We've then got Lynn in P12 with a 5-second time penalty, Brum with a 10-second time penalty, and Hubert down in P21 with 20 seconds of penalty to be spent in the pits. We saw, of course, Brandon Clayton pull into the pits earlier for a stop-and-go 10, which is a very serious misdeed indeed. Misdeed indeed. It is indeed a very bad accident, or it must have been a very, very rough thing for him to receive such a hefty penalty. Now that we've got some time, we can potentially have a look at some race replays, some action on circuits. At the moment, not really too much. We've only got this little battle between these two. Actually, we've got Hubert and Curtis going head-to-head into turn 8 down in P20, and you can see Curtis still hasn't repaired the damage to his car, and Hubert just makes up the position as they head into the braking zone. Nothing of too much concern. Well, further down, we've got Mumtaz and Özduru in P8 and P9. Mumtaz over to the left-hand side of the circuit. Özduru is going to be a late lunge into the braking zone. He's not quite sure of it. Yeah, there's nothing there for him right now. Into turn 9, potentially. Could we see a lunge up the inside under braking? Could we see a window of opportunity open? Well, no. Özduru goes wide there, but he's got a better line through the right-hander, so it could be on the exit. He gets him into the next corner, just stays left. Oh my goodness, and there's contact between these two, and Mumtaz gets spun out by Özduru. The number 343 takes out the AM class leader, and Mumtaz is now dropping down the order, and Johan Huben has taken the race lead for the AM class. Oh my goodness, interclass battles turn wrong, interclass battles go wrong, as Mumtaz drops down the order and is now P2 for his class. Not too far ahead of Nico Zilides. Well, I mean, not too far ahead. It's 26 seconds ahead. But all the same, that could have been avoided. Özduru. Yeah. Let's have another look at that from Özduru's perspective. We've got Özduru here. He's going on board with his bonnet. Actually, let's take it from his cockpit cam, because this might be a more reliable indicator of how the collision occurred and whether it was intentional or not. So here we go, going from the helmets through the long right-hander. You can see the BMW on the edge of traction. It's just a better line out for the McLaren going down the inside. There's just nothing there, and he takes out the BMW ahead. Gutted. I'm absolutely gutted for Mumtaz. The race is not over yet, though. He's still got plenty of time to regain that position. It is now the halfway point, so yeah, he can still make up the position on Huben. Considering they have the fastest lap, so it's a 2/10 difference between them. So it might be an uphill battle for Mumtaz, but Huben potentially has got some damage from that lap 1 incident that he still hasn't repaired. I've got no clue. Ozduru now pulls up to the back end of Miro. Ozduru absolutely flying this evening. He's got some damage though, so he needs to watch out. I suspect Miro, the only reason he's this far back and the reason he's within striking range, so to speak, of Ozduru, well, not quite yet, but almost within striking range of Ozduru, is purely based on the fact that he's probably had a spin or something recently. So Benitez in the pits again. We'll have all sorts of pit stop chaos happening now, so this is actually ideal for the accident reports. Let's see, car 18 had an accident. Who's car 18? That's Mumtaz. Yeah, that's Mumtaz. And the other driver, let's see, we've got an accident for the 888. Let's see, what was this? So side by side. Oh, this is that incident from earlier. Again, let's see if we can take it from the helmet's perspective. This right hander again, there's just nothing there, and yeah, just a light bit of contact, and that's what happens. Unfortunate stuff between those two, and Ozduru pulls into the pits now as all the pit stop chaos happens. Let's have a look at some more potential accidents. We've got an accident number 8, that's going to be Brum. Again, the amount of accidents that we see with Brum involved here is ridiculous. 10 minutes in, this is Brum again. Just got an Aston Martin to his left. Who cuts in? No, he doesn't cut in. And he pulls out wide. No clue what happened there, couldn't really see too much from the driver's seat. I was hoping for that fresh new perspective that I've recently discovered. But no, nothing there really. Yellow flag for the 268, something happened here. Very interesting. Yeah, I think there was really dangerous scenario. You know, it could have gone so wrong. I think something definitely did happen there that that just wasn't expected. I don't know whether it was maybe some sort of pitting issue, but yeah, game being funny, or more specifically my ACC TV acting all funny. Any yellow flags that we may not be aware of. Curtis, unfortunately, a driver that we've seen plenty of times. The number 17, Clayton. This could explain some of the... No, still going to stop and go. So this number 17 cleared his stop and go earlier, but there's no incidents before that on my timing board to indicate why. So Clayton coming out the pit. No, coming into the pits again. Unfortunately, I think it is just the yellow flag thing just going crazy because he's leaving the pits. Is that it? No. So it just comes out. Yeah, nothing really of note to speak of. Alessandro Penati, the cause of a yellow again. I think he just left the pits. Again, there's just such confusion between this. Okay, Mumtaz and Novell here fighting for P14. The Porsche has been making some moves recently. Some good stuff from the 888, and Mumtaz, unfortunately, yeah, he's just had a day to forget recently. Before that, it wasn't a day to forget, or an evening to forget, or a race to forget. We've got a yellow flag ahead to Miro, spinning out on the final corner as he now accelerates, as Christian Graniero now comes around the outside. And he comes past Muchard with a drive-through, Ozduru with a drive-through. I suspect these are just for track limits. But yeah, what happened to Miro? Let's see. Number 268 with an incident. So we go into the left-hander. Yeses. Keeps it all the way over to the left for the right-hander. Under braking. And he could hear the engine noise. He just went whoom. And yeah, went a little too hard on the loud pedal, went a little too loud on the loud pedal, and this resulted. I have to say, the Aston Martin isn't quite the car that you'd expect. You might not think, oh, you know, it's going to lose lots of traction on the rear. It does, actually. This car is, it's actually surprisingly easy to put the rear out on this car, even though it understeers a lot of the time. This car's rear end is still a little active under the accelerator, as are all these cars, in all fairness. They're all top-notch kind of racing cars, so you kind of need to expect that. Brandon Clayton with a yellow flag down in turn 3. What's happened here to the number 17? Is that another Broom incident? Might have to come up with a term that includes Broom and any sort of defending / major incident involving defending. Let's have a look at it. Enough speculating. Coming out the pits. Ah, I can see why that's a yellow flag situation. Yeah, very dangerous, as you can see, just merges. Yeah, very dangerous. I can't believe people keep doing this, man. I can't believe people just keep coming out the pit lane. Unacceptable. And it's so dangerous, isn't it? Yeah. But in all fairness, though, that pit lane is a little more tricky to come out of than others. The only other pit lane that I can really think of that's super dangerous, really, to come out of is, oh my goodness, Cleaning trying to hold onto the traction, can't quite do that though, down at P18, he's almost dead last. Yeah, not a race to, not one of his best races for the number 17, as he's now stuck behind Broom once again in P18. Could we see some defending from Broom? I'm on the edge of my seat already, can't wait to see this bit of action coming our way. What's happening here then? Nothing for the time being. But yeah, talking about pit lanes and dangerous ones, well, I mean, not really dangerous, but Donington comes to mind. Donington is a similar scenario where the pit lane just kind of spits you out into this traffic, and the traffic have almost no time to react. So if someone just suddenly comes out the pit lane and you're currently doing 200 to 300 kilometers an hour down a main straight, getting ready to brake in a straight line, and the car suddenly pulls out ahead of you, not only is your first corner probably going to be completely destroyed, your chances at making a good turn 1 run, yeah, there's a high chance you end up wrecking. You end up wrecking with that drive, you end up wrecking your car, all because no one thought to maybe get the pit lane out either a bit sooner or to drop that wall a little bit so the drivers could see. I don't know what goes into it. Apparently the circuit is rated very highly on safety. Apparently it has many safety features such as the barriers. I think it's the red barriers. I'm trying to see them now. I'm trying to find them now. Unless they're the one... Unless... I don't know. I'm looking for those red barriers. Can't quite see them yet though. Well, either way, yeah. Circuit Paul Ricard is well known for its safety, these runoff areas being one of the biggest features, so to speak. Again, as I said earlier, it's just a high grip surface. It just means that, yeah, the drivers then probably have a lot more time to slow down than they would if they just sent it straight into a gravel trap. You can see one of only very few gravel traps through this section here, through the final sector. And Brandon Clayton, well, I hope he doesn't see a red, and I hope Broom doesn't see a red, because he might find himself in a gravel trap if he's not careful. He's found himself on that black, blue and red stripe before, after a few collisions with Peters and not Peters, actually, Neville, after that as well. So, you know, he decided to expand his victim list slightly. Christian Graniera, though, comes out of the pit. Oh my goodness, heart dropped as I saw the gap increase or the positions drop again. There's always that thing about when people pit and the driver behind then makes a position and you're like, whoa, what's going on? Well, Lynn and Moochard, well, this is a battle for P3 on the line for the Pro-Am class. Suddenly turn 8 coming up now and trying to defend. Ricard comes across aggressively to try and get a little bit of slipstream before they go through that fast right-hander. Into turn 9 we go though. Both of them have gone slightly wide, and Ricard is all over the place after he lost that position to Lynn. But that is the move sealed for the number 36. He's got P11, P3 for the class. Some great stuff. Jacob Curtis. Oh no, something's happened here as Duru making his way past into turn 8. And you can see he's not quite happy. 2 damaged cars. Hopefully no damaged egos here. Hopefully no damaged common sense either. Because on a stopping wet circuit you need a lot of common sense. And you need a lot of talent as well to keep the car pointing in the right direction. So hopefully nothing too bad here. Hubert in P13. I still don't know why he's got a 20-second time penalty. This is number 1. Let's see if there's an incident involving this car. Not really. We haven't actually had too many people have... Well, I mean, actually, probably the list is so long I can't actually see it. So, yeah. That's probably why we don't know what happened earlier. It's JM asking for which game this is. This is AssettoCorsa Competizione. So you may have heard of AssettoCorsa before. It's not quite cross-platform. Well, before we go into that, Curtis makes the move on Osduru for P14, and he just takes that position just as quickly as he lost earlier. But yeah, as HSR Motorsport has typed in, that believe me, that's not me. Yes, it's called the AssettoCorsa Competizione. It's the official. What's the name again? It's on the tip of my tongue. Why can't I remember the name? Come to me. It's basically it's the official GT3 World Challenge game. It's completely separate from AssettoCorsa. It's not like an add-on or or like a mod or anything. It's purely a completely different game with its own DLC packs. Curtis defending from Osduru into turn 8 now, potentially having to mod a few things to get that bonnet closed into the pit lane soon, could we say? Well, they're not careful. They could both be heading into the pit lane for even more serious issues. And Curtis, on the brakes, a little interesting. Yeah, SRO GT3, I know, but there's the watch manufacturer name, like the official Blancpain, is that it? I think it's Blancpain GT3. I can't remember. I think it's something like that. The official Blancpain GT3 championship game. It's basically like Le Mans Ultimate is for the World Endurance Championship. It's the same kind of thing. Or F1 25 for F1 games. For F1, you know. Anyways, game history has not been my top, has not been my priority or my strength really. I just play them. And I watch them. Anything to watch out for on circuit at the moment? Not really. Christian Graniero continues to lead the race, 16 seconds clear of Alessandro Penati. He came out P2 actually. Cottalossa lost some time in the pits. How much exactly? Well, lost about 6 seconds, so I think he went for a set of new tyres. 16 minutes remaining. Yeah, not really much to speak of at the moment. George Vasiliadis, though, in the race lead, so I assume under the pit stops, 3 seconds difference between Redhead and Vasiliadis, and that's all it took for Vasiliadis to take the race lead. Redhead still in P2, still not a bad result for him if he finishes, if he can cross the line. But the difference between these two, minute, 400s between them essentially. And actually, the last lap, George Vasiliadis was 4/10 slower, and it's only 2.3 seconds between Vasiliadis and Redhead. Let's see if we can see the gap between them. You can hear the Mercedes. There it is. So that's what Redhead can see. You can see the race leader for his class out ahead. So that's something to keep an eye on potentially for the future. And down in P9 we've got Johan Huben leading for the AMS. And of course it's been a bit of a topsy-turvy race for him. Lap 1, turn 1, got taken out by his sister car, Miro, and then proceeded to fight back through the following couple laps, and now finds himself back in the race lead. So it's a brilliant comeback story for this Aston Martin driver. It's a great comeback story for the number 99. He just needs to hold on to this, make no mistakes, and he's got it. Unfortunately for Nicholas Mumtaz, he was leading pretty much right from the race start, and then got taken out by Emre Öztürk, who isn't even in his class. It's, you know, it's a completely unrelated incident, but yeah, unfortunately Öztürk just not braking. Thank you for telling me about the replay button. The broadcasting facilities, yeah, I'm quite new to it here in France. Not that I am physically in France, but you know, for realism's sake. But yes, while we've got a second, I've got a few fun facts to talk about. Of course, we know that Circuit Paul Ricard was built in 1970 by a drinks magnate called Paul Ricard, but he wasn't only into drinks or pastis. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. Pastis. How would you pronounce that? I almost said initially I thought it was pasties. You know, just like these little pies. You know, these little almost mince pies, but with actual mince in them. Apparently, he helped commercialise that back in the 1930s, and hence the ridiculous amount of money that he got out of that. But it's not as if he was a bad guy. You know, he's got all this money on. And in fact, he was actually an environmentalist, and he actually he built 2 islands essentially to help with that in the 1950s, and he actually also created, or produced, I should say, one of the first French colour films, La Maison du Printemps, in the 1950s. Don't ask me why I can why I can say French words in a French accent. It was a couple years on Duolingo. Forget about it. One thing we can't forget about is the battle here for P2, though, as suddenly we've got Panati and Tsapanidis right up next to each other. Why is it that every time I pull out the fun facts, we have action that suddenly decides to poke up its head? We've got this battle for P2 coming very shortly. 0.4 seconds between them, 0.2 seconds between them as they now come through the final corner. And at this point, it's not really whether they get a taste of that liquor, a taste of maybe some pasty, I don't know, but it'll probably be more champagne. It's more about who gets the better tasting champagne, so to speak, or who gets to taste it at a higher elevation. I bet that liquor tastes a bit higher at a couple extra inches higher than it would otherwise. I wouldn't know because I've never stood on the podium, other than well, I mean I've had a few, but I can still name them on one hand. So yeah, I'm not the most successful driver, but then again I haven't put in that much time. I don't know, enough about me. We've got this battle that's going to extend out onto the back straight, and yeah, it looks to be a decent run through the left-hander of turn 7 for Tsapanidis out into the main straight. How quickly is he closing the gap to the car ahead? Let's see what it looks like from Dash Pro. Our camera on the front of the car, 0.8 seconds. He's reeling him in, He's got a little bit of slipstream, 0.3 seconds. There we go, Panati on the inside, trying to defend his position. He thinks that Mercedes is going to come past before the braking zone. Nope, not yet. How about turn 9 though? If Panati's not careful and he decides to go for the outside and the Mercedes lunges down towards the apex, that could be his line scuppered. Well, he decides to go on the defensive line anyways. Both come back out. It's a double apex, so actually it's to be expected. On the exit, still pretty much neck and neck, but it is almost a second faster for Tsapanidis on Panati. Yeah, I'm actually amazed at how Panati's up in the podium positions in the first place, to be honest, since he was about P10 just after the first couple of initial laps. It did seem as though he was struggling slightly. It was Corsa who made up some positions at the race start. George Vasiliadis into the pits, I think. No, George Vasiliadis has lost some positions. There is now chaos unfolding up here for the race lead for the Pro-Am. Something's happened down there as well. I think we may have a little bit of time to see what happened in the race replay. So here's Redhead, Corsa behind, and we can see Vasiliadis just ahead. I think he spun it. Yes, no, sorry, that's Peters, one of the Ferraris. Oh my goodness, is this did what? I'm scared of what happened here. I suspect that Ferrari was there and Vasiliadis drove straight into the side of him. I think that's what happened. We'll have a look a little later on because Redhead is now 0.3 seconds behind Corsa and Sapanidis is 1 second behind Penati as they head out onto the pit. So we might onto the main straight. So we might actually have a little bit of time. Well, maybe not. Curtis and De Kock just swapped positions. Hubert and Mouchard also similar. Nick Brum pulls over to the side at turn 7. So I think there might have been a spin out for him, a little too early on the throttle. We've seen a few incidents like that. And Kurt Peters, yeah, that was Kurt Peters out in the middle of the road when Vasiliadis came round and smashed into the side of him. I want to see what happened here. I don't think there's going to be a move. I don't think so. But watch me be proved wrong within the first 10 seconds. Yeah, so 77 and the 29. Yeah, let's have a quick look at what happened here. So this is Peter's perspective. Through the right-hander, slightly wide onto the curb. Oh my goodness, loses it on the exit. And his car goes slightly blue. Of course, all those blue lines are projected. And yeah, just a straight up spin out. So I don't think there was any contact there. I don't know though. Vasiliadis, I think there was contact. I think there was contact. Open with the yellow flag. Let's see what this is all about. Through the left hander we go. Through the right hander of the final corner, turn 13. On the throttle, pulls to the inside. And into the pits he comes. Not quite sure whether that's for a pit stop or for something else. I've got no clue. Interesting stuff happening, and again, very interesting stuff indeed to happen between P2 and P3. Penati and Sapanidis. He's much closer this time. I think we could see a move on this straight. He's got the slipstream, he's got the speed, he's pulling round to the outside. Penati trying to defend it. It's going to be about who can get ahead by the time they get to the braking zone, and if they're not completely clear of each other by the time they get there, who can be on the brakes the latest, who can hold on to that position. Penati is still slightly ahead. They're still side by side as they go through turn 8. This is going to be very tight, but Penati leads through the corner. How about turn 9 though? They're both carrying the momentum, and you can see the heavy defending from Penati. He knew the Mercedes was going to go down the inside for the next right-hander. He's going around the long way now for the right-hander. Can he get a cut back for the next corner? Not quite. Some brilliant defending from Penati. Not aggressive defending as we've seen from Brum before, but just perfect car placement. Just great stuff from Penati, immediately covering that inside line. You can see the Mercedes came over to the right hand side of the track as well, trying to get a foothold, trying to get his nose down the inside, but there was just nothing there. Hubert and Valentine down in P8 and P9 swap positions, but nothing really of note anywhere else. Jacob Curtis and Nico Zilidis potentially going head-to-head for P16. Same between Mouchard and Hubert down in P12. But of course, Hubert has a 20-second time penalty. That will help. That will help many of the drivers behind, I'm sure. But unfortunately, yeah, Hubert is so far behind. He's not really. Yeah, his race hasn't been too great. He hasn't had the best race. Same can be said for Brandon Clayton and Kurt Peters down in P18 and P22 respectively. Side by side now though into turn 8, the most popular overtaking zone on the track. And of course the Porsche's brakes later should help him get ahead by the time they get to the apex, but he's forced wide, and Mouchard down the inside. Here we go. He was defending his position before. He's now on the offense. Sometimes they say the offense is the best defense, and he's now down the inside for the next right-hander apex. Ooh, Oh my goodness, still side by side as they head into turn 11 now. Turn 10, the left-hander and Ricard forced to go wide and back out onto the circuit he goes. A safe rejoin. All is well up here in the top 15. Nico coming up on the back of Curtis as Neville is actually yellow flagged on the main straight. I'm assuming that was either for a pit stop, you know, coming out the pit. But I don't think he stopped before. He did have a drive-through though, so it might be that he served his drive-through, but why would he be all the way over to the right-hand side of the track? If so, again, this battle between Tsepanides and Penati kicking off in the third sector for P2. Only 5 minutes in the race remaining for the Mercedes to make his way past the 58. Could this get desperate? Is the best way to describe it. Could this get to the point where Tsepanides just gets tired and he just lunges for the position, potentially taking out the McLaren ahead? Again, all these little variables, all these little things contribute to making the scenario very, very unpleasant indeed. 0.6 seconds between them. Again, Tsepanides with the fastest lap of 59.4. Alessandro Penati on a 2:05. So there's more than a second difference here in fastest laps. So actually, Tsepanides has been held back quite a lot by the driver ahead. He's actually, oh my goodness, and there's chaos. Oh my goodness. Well, maybe not utter chaos, but there's a back marker. That's Nico Zilidis spread across the track, perpendicular to the flow of traffic. Where's Brum? I'm wondering where Brum is, because no, Brum is still behind. Okay, so I was wondering whether there might be a change for position. So Zilidis still managing to hold on to his position. Could we see a quick replay of what happened? Just about loses traction. Did he tag Brendan Clayton? I think so. Just a little nudge. No, Clayton's still out on track, so fortunately nothing too bad. All still good. Okay, the battle for P2, where is that at the moment? Tsepanides a little further behind Penati than the usual, heading into the third sector, but this traffic might have an effect on Penati as they now head into the final few corners. Only 2 corners to go before we start one of the final laps of this race. We start the penultimate lap when they come across that line now. Christian Graniero, yeah, he's gonna have 2 more laps. 2 more laps for the BMW driver, who's had a fairly boring race out ahead, but he's still been battling the elements. He's still trying to keep the car on the edge of traction all the way. Believe me, holding on to the race lead is just as momentous a task as it is to chase it. In fact, it might even be harder because you've got no one to reference other than the driver behind as to how well you're doing, as to how fast you are compared to the rest of the grid. And usually I prefer chasing people because I then have an objective. I've got that thing right in front of me. I need to catch him. Boom! I'm better at chasing than I am leading the pack, so to speak. P18 for Nico Zilidis. Some yellow flags. Tony Ricard and Nick Neville both go off, fighting for P20, the final top 20 position. 2 Englishmen. Well, 1 Englishman and 1 British person, because that can encompass quite a few countries, can encompass 3 of them. So I don't actually know whether Neville's. I think Neville's English. All it says is UK. Anyways, Jacob Curtis and Brandon Clayton. Nope, it's Brandon Clayton on the back of Penati. Yeah, so. Yeah, looks like Penati managed to get through the traffic fairly alright. Tsepanides is getting caught up though. He's not quite managing to hold on. Tony Ricard and Nick Neville. This battle for final position kicking off now into turn 1. Could we see some more action further down the grid? And we've just heard the announcement, final lap. Oh my goodness, and Nick Novell is spun out almost in the centre of the circuit over to the left-hand side. And there's Christian Graniero, who just went past your screen. George Vasiliadis also off in P6, and his gap to Josh Redhead has grown now to 11 seconds. And again, we talked about their pace being pretty much neck and neck. Yeah, it's clearly showing. Redhead just staying out ahead. Broom probably the most docile we've seen him this evening as he allows George through. And I say that lightly. I'm only joking, Broom. I mean, it was good job on you. Good on you. There's a difference between battling people for your position, and there's a difference between battling cars that are lapping you. And if you battle them, then yeah, you're kind of a donut. But yeah, I don't know. Broom though, not battling the faster cars, which is good. Christian Graniero though, coming around into the final sector now. He's had a dominant race, nothing really to speak of for him. He's just had a quiet race out in front. Josh Redhead, a little bit of competition between himself and Vasiliadis with the pit stops happening. And yeah, other than that, maybe a little bit of action here in the middle part of the race, but nothing else really happening too badly. But here we go. I might have said Cristiano Graniero, but no, or Cristiano Ronaldo, I don't know, my mind is so gone by now, for various reasons. Graniero's chance at a race win virtually sealed as it comes around the final corner now, and we have another race winner. Christian Graniero wins round 6 of the GT3 Season 6 Championship. Top of the evening for you, sir. We've got Josh Redhead in the Pro-Ams going to cross the line next as our next winner for the evening. He's also had a relatively quiet race, and we talked about a little bit of action with Vasiliadis, a bit of the pit stop chaos coming in, a little bit of that playing a role, but overall it's been a relatively quiet race for Redhead, so he wraps up yet another race in the HSR GT3 Championship on the podium and as a race winner once more. This will be his 3rd race win of the season and another podium after a tough week last week. And Redhead is your Pro-Am class race winner for round 6. And Huben, the AM driver who initially lost out the race lead to Montas and then got collected by his sister car to Miro in P6, ironically. But yeah, after that he just continued racing. He just kept going, and has now found himself right at the top of the grid. And Johan Huben is your AM class winner. An incredible recovery run from the 99. Honestly, every single race winner here deserves it. They've had some incredible pace, and we've seen some incredible racing this evening. And that concludes round 6 of the HSR Motorsport GT3 Season 6 Championship here at Circuit Paul Ricard. Join us next week for round 7, an ultimate race of the season. Again, 8 PM GMT Friday evening is when we will go live, hopefully. I know it was a bit late tonight, but hopefully next week we'll be a little more on the ball. But join us, next week for these epic championship rivalries that will be kicking off. And we'll see you all next time. Good night.